Welcome to what I believe is episode 20 of Roughing the Passer. This is our playoff edition version. The playoffs have started. First week is almost in the books. Tomorrow's game will complete the first round, if you will. So first thing we're going to do. This show is going to be a little different. I'll apologize in advance. I'm battling a bad cold, so if I sound off, I'll sound a little off more than usual. That's why I'll try not to cough or swear on the air because the Steeler game is on as we're doing this show. So hopefully they won't give me a reason to swear or anything like that. But first thing we're going to do, guys, is as always, we're joined by David Lee in Dallas and Jordan Newman in the basement of the house. So, but first thing we're going to do, we're going to put up the screen with the all the spreads of this week's games, and then we're going to go over who each of us took. Very similar picks. The Bengals were favored versus the Raiders by 6.5 points. Buffalo was a 4.5 point favorite against the Pats. Tampa Bay favored by 9 over the Eagles. Dallas was a 3-point favorite over the Niners. And Kansas City's a 13-point favorite over Pittsburgh. And tomorrow's game has the Rams being a 4.5 point favorite over the Cardinals. David Lee took the Raiders. So 0-1 there. Buffalo, he covered that one, 1-1. Tampa Bay covered 2-1 there.
The
Dallas,
Raiders
unfortunately,
covered.
what?
I think the
No,
Raiders
26-19.
Yeah, they missed it by half a point.
Yeah, they missed it by half. Nice try. What are you, his lawyer there, Jordan?
I got a dog in the fight.
Oh, you took him too. No wonder. No, you didn't. Oh, well, yes, you did.
I did. I did.
All right. So let's start again. We got 0-1, Buffalo, Tampa Bay 2-1. Dallas, unfortunately for David, is 2-2. Pittsburgh's ongoing. You have more faith apparently than I do, Mr. Lee. And then he took the Rams tomorrow.
It's 7-1.
I hear you. So it's 2. Listen, I hope you're right. I'll gladly miss my pick on that one. So you're 2-2 with this game going on now, and then tomorrow's game. Myself, I took the Bengals. So 1-0. Buffalo 2-0. Tampa Bay 3-0. I did take the Cowboys, so 3-1. I took the Chiefs. I know. Listen, I'll gladly be 3-2. I'll take it. So 3-1 with the Chiefs game now, and the Rams I took tomorrow night. Jordan took the Raiders, so 0-1 there. Took the Pats, not a good start. 0-2. Tampa Bay gets you to 1-2. We all took Dallas. We were like all three of us the kiss of death. I think it's our fault, David. So there he's at 1-3. You took Pitt in this game. Again, I'm hoping I'm the only one wrong on this game. And you took we all took the Rams tomorrow night. So Jordan, we got David Lee 2-2, myself 3-1, and Jordan 1-3 with this game and tomorrow's game to be determined. So that's the picks and how we did it. David Lee, I got to give him props. He did win the regular season version of our picks. So we're just someone's trying to just win something. So we have to do a postseason edition as well.
Everyone knows postseason doesn't actually count. So,
but if I win it, if I win it, it's
the regular season's where it's all made.
Yeah. No. Well, listen, it's harder. Let's put. I'll give you that much. 17 weeks. You got to hold off everyone, which you did. So to the victors, go to spoils. Like I said in the open, guys, we're not going to have game balls and goats with limited games. We're going to actually just go through each game and kind of talk about it, things that we wanted to address, the performances themselves, and that sort of thing. Let's start with we're going to actually I got this. Let's go in the order that the games really took place. So the first game was the Bengals holding off the Raiders 26 19. I've said it as being a Steeler fan. I hate to give them too much props, but this team's for real. Me and Jordan sort of battle in the house. He's not a big fan of Joe Burrow, but I think he's the real deal, getting to be, crazy as it sounds, an elite quarterback. They've shored up some of their line issues, and they can score points, and their defense isn't terrible. This team could be, not obviously they won this game, but it wouldn't shock me to see them in the AFC Championship game, to tell you the truth. Um, I think they're legitimate. Now they could go out and lose next week. That's what happens in the playoffs. Any given Sunday, especially now, you don't get a mulligan or another week to kind of fix your ills. It's one shot and done. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm a believer in the Bengals, and Joe Burrow looks the part, and he really, especially coming down the stretch, last 2 weeks, that he played, he sat out the last week. Almost 500 yards in each of the games, and he's not turning the ball over. And this was another game he performed well, and they won. So I think the Bengals could make some noise here in the postseason as well. What thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Burrow's good. I think my big knock on Burrow is he's just has loads of talent. I mean, really everywhere he's gone. But I mean, it's not really a knock on him. I mean, you would want a team good with talent. I think the big thing I think that's impressive with him is he's doing this with a shaky line. The whole issue with them
Yeah.
not addressing the line never really got resolved, and he's just kind of played through it. And I think he led the league in sacks, or he had over 50. And he's found a way to kind of do it. And I think that's what's been most impressive to me is he's doing this all while really facing constant pressure and getting kind of banged around. And that's the thing is they with that team is if they get the ball to those guys, they can make plays. I think they've got so many guys on that offense that make one guy miss, and next thing you know, you're down 7, 14 points, and it
Mhm.
goes quick. And I think that's the thing that's been so impressive with Burrow is he's just getting the guys the ball and letting them make plays. And I think we see a lot of quarterbacks that don't really do that. And it's just to be able to do that and then limit your picks and not be kind of caught forcing it and really over making those big plays to see him balance that at the same time of not having a nice pocket and that defense is solid, but they're not world beaters either. So I think he's really conducting, I think, that team. They don't typically beat teams with defense. So I think it's just been impressive to see him kind of remain calm and really run a team when in front of him is not always fully stable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's the thing too. Go ahead, David, but I'll add something at the end. But go ahead.
No, but I think the two biggest points that Jordan hit on that I was going to say is shaky offensive line. One of the most sacked. If I don't know if he finished with the most sacks, quarterbacks in the league, which ended his rookie season last year, which everybody remembers. And so many people, when they drafted Jamar Chase in the first round, so many people were ragging on the Bengals for not drafting a tackle to protect Joe Burrow, which logically made sense at the time. But here they are here they are 1-0 in the playoffs with the most explosive offensive player in the NFL in Chase. And last year a lot of people were doing the Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow sort of seesaw battle where, last year Herbert obviously came out, number one offensive rookie of the year, but here's Burrow, already 1-0, in the playoffs with a pretty damn impressive young offensive group around him. And I'd also point out that what was it? Joe Mixon, running back, had 48 total yards rushing
Yep.
today. So they won. Jamar Chase was the second leading rusher on the team today. So that was pretty impressive. Or this weekend, I should say. So yeah, they beat a Raiders team with their top running back rushing for fewer than 50 yards. That's pretty impressive. And this was a Raiders. The reason I picked the Raiders in this to cover, was just, I didn't think the Raiders were going to win, but they've been notorious for keeping games insanely close and coming in and taking games to overtime and coming up with just like ridiculous ways to win the game. So, yeah, Burrow is at the center of all this, but Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon for most of the year. But yeah, I mean, what could this team do with a better offensive line? I don't know. We still don't know how far they may go in an AFC that I still think is, pretty wide open. But yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And Burrow looked really, really good. Absolutely. He didn't look as good as as another AFC quarterback that I'll think we'll talk about here pretty in a minute. But yeah, that's pretty impressive. You won your division, you won a playoff game in your second year as a starter. So yeah, that's you've got to be pretty excited about what the Bengals are putting together so far. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this: you make a great point with Mixon. He's been good this year. He hasn't been great. He's had a lot of these 48,
Right.
46 type yard games where they really didn't rely on him to get these victories. If he ever really kicks it into gear where he's becoming that sort of elite back like a lot of people think he can be, he's getting a little bit older, but he has shown the ability to carry that team himself, even prior to Jamar Chase's arrival there. If he ever is that back again, I mean, this team could be definitely scary. And, we talk about Jamar Chase, and deservedly so, but Tyler Boyd stepped up this game, who I really like. And then T. Higgins didn't have a great game, but still a solid receiver. So they got multiple weapons. This isn't like just kind of a 2.5 man show. And I think Burrow is knowing your line and knowing how to roll out, maybe avoid that hit or sack, throw it away rather than throw a jump ball that could be picked off. I think he's matured even in his second year, and that just bodes well for the future of this team. No matter what happens now, I think, as a Steeler fan, they better take notice. Corners need to be a factor because you're going to see these guys twice a year with these receivers. And so we got blown out twice by them this year. So, I'm sure the Steelers front office are well aware of what they're doing not so far away in Cincinnati. So that's that game. Let's go to the next game. And like you said, David, we are going to probably wind up talking about a quarterback here. I picked the Bills. I didn't expect it to be this easy, 47-17, and they undressed the Patriots, and a lot of people calling it the perfect game because they never punted. They scored a touchdown on every possession, and they never kicked. They didn't have to kick a field goal. So it was the football, what they, air quotes, perfect game against the Patriots defense that was pretty good. Makes me wonder, if this was a Patriots defense without a Belichick's name on it, would that person be shown the door after a game like this? But this is the name on that defense is Steve Belichick, and so I'm not surprised that Buffalo won. I picked them. I just surprised at how easy of a time they had. Josh Allen was running crazy, but you know what? Devin Singletary, another great rushing game. If this team gets true running back performances like they've been getting, which they hadn't been getting for most of the year, this team could be very much be in the Super Bowl, quite frankly. So I think they go, as crazy as it sounds, this is Josh Allen's team. I don't think anyone will argue that point. But if Devin Singletary can move the chains the way he has the last 3 or 4 weeks, this team's going to be a hard out. I don't know who beats them. Kansas City matches up, I guess, with them. But again, Singletary sort of that X factor for this team. If Josh Allen can sort of avoid that, mistake kind of game where he throws 2 picks and they lose by 5 points type of deal, they have to be definitely considered a strong contender to be Super Bowl representative. And so it was a complete performance. Mac Jones looked like a rookie, really, for the first real time this year. I'm sure he's had a few other not so great games, but rookie, first time in the playoffs, that kind of showed. A game like this, I don't think says, well, the Patriots are done. I think they're going to be in the mix in this division for the uncertain future with Mac Jones. Look like they hit on that quarterback pick. And, Belichick knows what he's doing regardless of the score here. And they're going to be, they're done this year, obviously, but they're going to be relevant for at least a few years to come, despite what you see on the scoreboard from Saturday's performance. And David, I'll have you go next. Kind of your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I think we've talked about the Bills before and how you don't want to see Josh Allen consistently being your leading rusher every week, and that wasn't the case this year or today, but he did have 66 yards rushing, which is fine. Like Josh Allen will kind of get his, he's going to get some yards on the ground, which is perfectly fine. But this game, last night was kind of decided by halftime. What you do want to see is Josh Allen. He had more touchdowns than he had incompletions, which was pretty impressive. He had 5 touchdowns and 4 incompletions. So yeah, I mean, you if you're a Bills fan, you kind of want to see this type of game, right? You want to see your offense get so far ahead to where you make the other team have to play catch up and start to go one dimensional. But yeah, I mean, Devin Singletary, 2 touchdowns, 81 yards. He only carried the ball 16 times, which, if you need him to get the ball more, that's fine. That's what you want to see. I've always kind of liked the combination, or at least in concept, of Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, kind of being that, Moss being the smaller, kind of faster, flashier, slasher type of running back, and Singletary being the more kind of bigger bruiser type. And then of course Josh Allen is gonna get some yards on the ground no matter what. But I remember a few weeks ago, when Josh Allen was kind of the entire offense in a game, and I remember saying that if you're a Bills fan, this is a very unsettling game heading into the postseason. But this is a game that you've got to be super confident if you're a Bills fan. No matter what happens tonight in the game that's going on right now, whether it's the Chiefs, and the Bills, or the Bills and the Titans, matching up a couple of weeks from now, this is the type of game you want to see from your offense. And to keep a Patriots team under 20 points is, it's almost the exact formula that you want to see, where the Bills kind of have been a little, unsettling, at different times throughout the season. All that matters is how do you play when it matters most? And obviously in the postseason, it matters most right now. So yeah, if they can kind of keep this up and not count on Josh Allen being the entire offense, absolutely the Bills can represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Jordan, what do you say?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think Allen made a flawless game. You really couldn't do much else. I think the thing with Singletary that's big is it's really not been him that I think's the issue. The Bills are really finally committing to a running back early in the game and letting him kind of go through runs. And I think in the past they've kind of tried a guy early, it doesn't work. Then you try Moss, and then that didn't work, and then you bring in Breida. And I think they've had the guy there. I think Singletary is a starting running back, and they just haven't committed. And I think you're finally seeing playoff time. You don't have really time to experiment with which back's going to get it going. You kind of got to pick one. And I think we saw that. I think it helps Singletary, just the mindset of knowing, this isn't going to, I'm not getting a couple carries. I'm going to see the ball again. I'm going to have kind of an opportunity to make a difference. And I think that was kind of a big thing. But I think on the other side, I think New England got pretty hot in the middle of the year, and I don't think this was expected to be a season they were really competing and looking at a deep playoff run. I think Mac Jones and that defense kind of ran a hot streak. I think they won six straight, and then they beat the Bills without passing more than 3 times. And it felt like it was kind of that in between year. You bring in Mac Jones, you kind of get him in that system, and you might see flashes. And I think it took off a bit more than was expected. And I think you saw that in this game. I think you saw a Bills team that's clearly a playoff team ready to kind of compete and go deep. And I think with the Patriots, you saw a team that had flashes and that had really good stretches, but still lack kind of playmakers on offense. And you have a rookie quarterback, no matter how good Mac Jones looked during the year, the playoffs is different. And against a team that's already seen you twice, I think we saw that. And I think, not to constantly defend Belichick, but I think when they came out and Buffalo scored early, I don't think Belichick was prepared for a game he was going to have to start scoring at kind of a rapid pace. I think he was kind of gearing up for it's really cold. They're going to probably choke them out like they did that first game and really kind of run it out. And I think the Bills coming out and kind of determining that offense of just we're going to score and you're going to have to keep up. I don't think the Patriots really were ready for that at all. I think they wanted a slow pace, cold kind of smash mouth game, and Buffalo wasn't having that, and the Patriots didn't adjust, which I think was odd, especially from a coach like Bill Belichick, to see a team really not adjust and kind of be stubborn in the idea of like a slow paced running game when you've got a guy that's on point as Josh Allen was, where, like you said, he missed less throws than he threw touchdown passes. And you can't really hold on to your game plan and hope to choke out a team when they're running at that pace. At a certain point, you kind of got to put down, your game plan and really start throwing it and trying to keep up. And at no point did it ever feel like that score happened, that the Patriots kind of kicked it in gear and were like, all right, we got to quit scoring. It almost was like they were just hoping the Bills would cool off and they could start kind of pounding it. And it never happened. And I think that's why you see the score as bad as it was, is the Bills really, or not the Bills, the Pats really didn't adjust. I think they were just waiting for the Bills to run out of tough points, and they didn't seem to find any end.
Yeah, again, the score, the fact that the Bills won didn't surprise me. I think what really surprised me was how poorly, the Pats defense played in this game. Now, you got to give credit, obviously, to the Bills offense that made them play that bad. But, I mean, it's been a while since a Patriots defense has lost, or the Patriots team has lost by 30 and given up almost a 50 burger. I mean, the Bills again didn't punt once in this game. So the punter could have like taken the night off and stayed at the hotel, or didn't even come to the park. It's a home game. So crazy, but Bills are, they're a funny team too. If Allen has one of those clunker games that every once in a while shows up, that could be it. And that's why these playoffs are so interesting. Let's go to today's games, starting with the first one. The Buccaneers beating the Philadelphia Eagles 31-15. The Buccaneers looked everything like the defending Super Bowl champions, but they were playing an Eagles team that some may argue might be, if we were seeding both the AFC and NFC playoff teams, they would be either the next to last or the last seed. So I don't want to read too much into this game. Sorry, Eagles fans, but the Bucks did what they had to do. They kept Brady in there most of the way. I did a little gambling on this game, and I got to thank the Eagles for that late last touchdown, which put the point spread over the over that I bet on. Otherwise, I would have lost that. I actually hit a parlay on this one game alone, which was a nice hit. But we're not here to talk about DraftKings and my bets. But the Buccaneers did what they had to do. You got to play the team that's in front of you. I think the Bucks have proven this year, while they are very good and may be the favorite to at least get to the Super Bowl again, they can be beaten with a performance. I think, for Eagles fans, your receivers did not play well in this game, truth be told. A lot of Eagles fans will critique them that, a guy like Arciega Whiteside was taken ahead of a DK Metcalf. He's been obviously a disappointment, especially when you look at it on those terms where they could have had a DK Metcalf. Devonta Smith has had a pretty good year, but he'll have games where he kind of is MIA. And I think, if you're an Eagles fan, I think they still got quarterback. I don't think they found a guy. I know Eagles fans don't want to hear that, but I don't know if Hurts is going to be the guy you think he was, which allowed you to move on from Wentz and get rid of Carson Wentz. So I think they still got quarterback issues. How do you deal with that? Hurts is young, so you want to crush his confidence. Jordan told me I didn't hear the comments. I'll let Jordan speak to him, but after the game, Hurts kind of became a little bit of, I guess, what you'd call an excuse maker, saying he was playing hurt. He has a leg injury. I mean, you lost, man. You played, you lost. He's done that before in the regular season. I'm not a fan of those kind of comments. If you play the game, you play the game. I mean, we can make an argument that in week 18, which is this is what it is, everybody's got nicks and bruises and bumps and is playing hurt to some degree. So to use that sort of as I wish I was healthier, or if I was healthier, maybe the outcome would be different. No need for that. You suited up, you played, you got beat. Let it be what it is. Talk about getting better, talking about things you can do to be better, not a leg injury. So I think, the Eagles sort of, listen, they earned their way in. I'm not taking nothing away from them, but I don't think anyone was picking the Eagles today or picking the Eagles to go very far in the NFC in the playoffs. So they were just kind of the sparring partner, if you will, that the Buster Douglas that wasn't expected to beat Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson won this afternoon. So, Jordan, I mean, I'll let you go here. You can kind of you heard the Hertz comments. You
Yeah.
relayed them to me. Just kind of give your assessment on the whole
So yeah,
shebang.
so obviously there's not much to talk about with the Bucks. I think the Bucks did what they're gonna do to beat teams. Bunch of guys got the ball. Everyone seemed to kind of contribute. Brady looked good. It was kind of patented like Tom Brady Tampa Bay style game, and they just kind of dominated. I think the Hurts thing was I think he just had walked to the podium after the game with a walking boot, and a reporter asked, and he mentioned he'd been dealing with a leg injury for a few weeks now. And to me, I don't. It just like you said, it seems just very. It's tough to say a guy who's having an injury is an excuse thing. It just for a guy that runs as much as he does, and he does play quarterback. He does stand in there and throw the ball, but to not really have kind of this issue before, to not have this really brought up, and to all of a sudden lose a playoff game, and then you're walking in with a walking boot, and it wasn't good timing. And I think if and on the coach's side, if he really does have kind of a lingering leg injury, why mid-season do you trade for a guy like Gardner Minshew, who's a guy that you're ready to put in and kind of start and win games if you have to? I don't see the point in bringing in a guy like that, and then you have a guy in Hurts who, if he does have a nagging leg injury for the last couple of weeks going into a playoff game, you kind of roll him out there, and it just doesn't make sense. Both ways for me. I don't know why you bring out a guy who is a primarily running quarterback in a playoff game if he's banged up, and I just don't know how much of a injury it is. I just think it's a weird thing to kind of not mention much going into the playoffs, and then all of a sudden now you have a nagging injury that might need surgery. It just an odd situation all around. And like you said, I don't think it's cleared the Eagles quarterback situation up. I think we've gotten good looks at Hurts, but I'm pretty sure the stat is like 8 of his wins are all against sub 500 teams, and I think one of the wins came against a team with more wins than losses. And he seems to kind of beat up on teams they should beat in those games that they play better teams or teams that they should kind of compete with. They seem to get down early, and he kind of makes up those late numbers in the third and fourth quarter when the game's kind of already far gone. And he puts up these respectable numbers when, if you were to just kind of scroll through and you see like, oh, we had an alright game, they didn't win. But to me, he's really the one that kind of sets them up to be in those bad positions late, where he benefits from the prevent defense and taking kind of the yards they're giving him. And I just don't think I don't know how the Eagles can kind of go into next year seeing a guy that sets them kind of back, and you have to kind of fight back in the third and fourth quarter constantly. It'll be interesting to see what they do. They've had issues with quarterbacks they've had in the past in deciding who they want, and it sounds like there's another issue with, I think Roseman wants Hurts, and whoever the GM, Lowry doesn't, and it sounds like there's already kind of that issue of like, is he really our guy or not? And it doesn't sound like they're even sure really in their own front office, and they've got the closest look at him. So I think if you're, like you said, if you're an Eagles fan, I don't know how secure, and I Hurts hasn't really done much to really secure your feeling on the quarterback position.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna get David's 2 cents here too, but Jalen, like you said, he kind of beat up on some inferior opponents, if you will. He'll have a game where you say, "Man, this guy could be." When you look at the box score, like this guy could be the guy for the long term, and then he'll follow that same game up the next week and really kind of throw a clunker out there, like we're talking about today, where we don't think he is going to be the guy long term. And that's not a good place to be. That's why they traded for Minshew. Here's the thing: Minshew is going to go somewhere else. He's going to do the same thing that happened in Jacksonville, kind of demand a trade when he's not the starter. So unless they name Minshew the starter, he's going to sign somewhere else with a chance to play a little bit more and more of an opportunity if they hitch their wagon to Hurts. It'd be hard, in Philly's defense. I don't know how they don't unhitch it at least at the beginning of next year. I mean, the only way Philadelphia gets out of the Hurts kind of deal is they sign or trade for one of these like established quarterback, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, maybe even a Baker Mayfield, that sort of deal. But other than that, there's no one, to me, there's no one in this draft that's really going to unseat them, at least to start with. So they're kind of in a tough spot. They're probably going to lose Minshew because he's not going to want to stick around. He's going to move on. And so, let's talk about the receivers a little bit, and then I'll let David go. I mean, these receivers have been disappointing. Jalen Reagor, now some of that's got to be on the quarterback too, but Jalen Reagor hasn't lived up to his draft billing. Arcega Whiteside for being picked up picked ahead of DK Metcalf has been very disappointing. And Devonta Smith, he's a rookie. He's actually had a pretty good year, but even he was many questioned, if he was going to be able to do it at the next level too. So they got some receiver issues as well. And they got, for being in the playoffs, they probably have some of the most holes of the playoff teams here. And so I don't know if we're going to see them every year like we see them this year, but we'll see. David, what say you with this game and just in general?
Well, like what stood out to me in this game is I still don't know how or why Philadelphia made the playoffs. That's still kind of a mystery to me. Maybe it's just this like 7th seed thing that I think we're all still getting used to. But to me, this was a lot more about Tampa Bay than it was Philadelphia. This game was 31-0 pretty late in the third quarter. So that kind of that's kind of the story of the game to me. Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones were ruled out for this game. So you're the defending Super Bowl champions. You finished the season 13-4. Your top 2 running backs are out for your first playoff game, and it was no problem whatsoever. So that really that kind of stands out to me. Keyshawn Vaughn was your top rushing threat in this game with 53 yards and a touchdown. Giovanni Bernard, the long-term Cincinnati Bengal, threw out 44 yards and a touchdown. So if I was another NFC team, I would be really, really concerned about the Buccaneers right now. Brady's 44 years old. He led the entire league in passing completions, yards, touchdowns. He had a career high 5,300 yards passing. Yeah, he had an extra game this year. So did everybody else. But I would be, I would be really concerned about. I just kind of see all these other NFC teams scrambling around trying to figure out how they're going to beat the Buccaneers. The Packers might have a little bit more confidence than everybody else, obviously, but the kind of pretty much a blowout win over the Eagles isn't a lot to brag about against a team that I think most people that follow NFL football will easily forget about. But when your top 2 running backs didn't even get a carry, and you throw out Keyshawn Vaughn and Giovanni Bernard as your rushing attack, and you go up 31-0, pretty much late in the game, that's got to give you a ton of confidence. So yeah, I mean, I agree with almost what everything you guys said about the lack of explosion from the Eagles receivers, and if Jalen Hurts is the guy or whatever. But to me, the story of this game is the defending Super Bowl champions, and I would be, if I was any other NFC team right now, I would be really, really concerned about what I'm going to be seeing, next week from the Buccaneers. And like I said, maybe the Packers are the only other team in the entire NFL that could legitimately have a significant amount of confidence, potentially facing this team down the road. But that's pretty impressive of what they threw out there. As much as the Bills game was, a pretty good blowout, this game was 31-0, pretty late in the game. So that's that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they kept Brady in too, David. I don't know if you saw it. They kept Brady in pretty late. I know the announcers were commenting like maybe you should take your starting quarterback out, especially with the name of
Right.
Brady. You don't need him. You're going to win this
Yeah.
game right now.
He,
Even
he
taking
he
him
had
out
8
now.
incompletions, by the way.
Yeah. So, like, they play with fire a little bit there if he gets hurt. Now, he doesn't take too many hits, but all it takes is one. So they kept him in there maybe a little longer than I would have. Philadelphia came into this game with the number one rushing attack. Surprisingly, I didn't realize that with what they got there, but they do have the number one rushing offense. And Tampa Bay did a pretty good job of stopping that for the most part. And Philly really couldn't get anything in the air game going on a consistent basis. And like you said, 31-0. Those two last touchdowns were just garbage time
Yep.
touchdowns. So this game's not even as close as the score indicates. All those last two touchdowns did is they helped me win my parlay. So I want to give the Eagles, that much credit for garbage time touchdowns. They did win me some money, so that's a positive. But yeah, they have a lot of holes. They got a lot of questions that need answers. Where you can see this Tampa Bay team in the postseason on a regular basis, we cannot say the same about the Eagles. So let's go to our last game that's completed. We got the 49ers holding off the Cowboys 23-17. This was a game when we were doing our picks. This was the game that I thought would be sort of the closest one to call. And the score really kind of indicates that it's the Cincy game was a 7-point win. This was a 6-point final score. So as of right now, it was the closest game. Dallas did not start well, and San Fran did, and I think that was. I know you watch it, David. You're a Cowboys fan. I'll let you do more of the commenting here, but I think that was really the difference. How these two teams sort of started. Jimmy G made it interesting. Jimmy G played fairly well. Kind of threw a pick at the end that opened the door for a potential Dallas come from behind victory. The one thing I'll say, I watched a good portion of this game, not every play, but on that run towards the end, to me, I don't know how you feel, David, but that's a play where you got to throw the ball. Like you don't
Yeah.
have any
Yeah.
timeouts. Like I know the lane was there. I know the seam was there. I get it. You see that big wide open space, but unless you got like a clear path to the end zone, anything short of the end zone, you got to get your team to run down there and clock it, which they weren't able to do. I just thought that I'm not even a Cowboys fan. I just thought that was a frustrating sort of way to like end it. I think you either throw it away or you take a shot towards the end zone and let it be whatever it's going to be,
Yeah.
incomplete, picked off, or a touchdown. But he ran the ball there. It was a good run. I'm not, listen, the gap was there. I get it. Under normal circumstances, you'd pat him on the back, say, "Great run, young man." But you don't have any timeouts left. You're down by 6. And unless you can get up quick and spike it, you're not going to get another playoff. So while it's a great run, it ended in a sense, it ended the game. So I'm not saying Dak's not doesn't have a football head on his shoulders. I think he does. I think he just sort of miscalculated there, if you will. And I don't want to say it cost him the game, but it cost them a chance at another play to put the ball in the end zone. To me, when I saw it, I'm like, you got to throw that ball. Unless he scores here, which he wasn't close to scoring. I don't want to
Yeah.
make it like it was that he got stopped at the 1. But unless you score there, you got to throw that ball either away, take a shot in the end zone. If it gets picked, it gets picked, and it is what it is. But to run 30 yards or whatever it was, kind of get tackled, slide down, and then not be able to get another playoff. I think most teams will tell you we got to go out in a different way than that. It's a little bit. I'm not saying he's playing hero ball, but it had a little bit of that to it. I think maybe he thought he had more time to maybe clock it and get one last play to the end zone. I'm sure he did. That's he had to. Otherwise, he wouldn't have did that. But wound up, they weren't able to run another play. It's a tough way to sort of. I think I don't want to speak for you. I'll let you talk here in a second. But I think you would have rathered him throw one in the end zone, even if it gets picked and game's over that way, than to run it that far. Time runs off the clock, and that's it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you. I might chime back in, but I'm gonna let you, as a Cowboy fan, this is your game. I'm gonna let you kind of give your take on it first here, and I just wanted to talk about the deck play there. But go ahead, David.
Yeah, that whole series was certainly highlighted, but just kind of from a bigger picture, high level, standpoint, this was kind of the exact type of game that almost you Cowboys fans, I think, almost expected this to happen. They beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they lose against the good teams. We've kind of seen this all year against this, with this Cowboys team. Starting with Week 1 against the Buccaneers, lost a really close game against the defending champions, and you kind of felt good about that game. But they've lost to the Cardinals. Yeah, they beat the Chargers, but are the Chargers in the playoffs? No, they're not. So it's like we talked about a little bit about this, like with the Buffalo Bills and kind of how they were kind of shaky heading into the playoffs, but they stepped up and took care of business. But hey, the 49ers are coming off of a really good win against the Rams, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the 49ers win another game. I don't know, but just kind of from a high level standpoint, this game looked like the Cowboys team that we saw this year, underachieving on paper. They've got Ezekiel Elliott and they've got Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and all these great weapons on offense, and they did finish the season scoring more points than any team in the NFL, but that doesn't matter when you have to actually score more points than the other team that you're playing today. They only scored 17 points, and the 49ers scored 23 points. You should overcome 23 points in the playoffs. You should. And the defense even set up the Dallas Cowboys offense for a score. So that's kind of my high level view of all this. And when you get into the actual kind of numbers of it all, let's see, the Dallas Cowboys running backs. So these are the millionaires that are actually paid a ton of money to actually run the ball on the field, right? 45 yards total from Dallas Cowboys running backs, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. The only other two players that actually had rushing yards were Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. That's less than half the football field from the people that are actually paid a lot of money to run the ball. Now, does some of that go to the offensive line? Absolutely it does. So that's a big part of it as well. The number one receiver, for this team was tight end Dalton Schultz, and he had a good game. Like, that's fine. I don't mind the number one receiver being your tight end. That's perfectly fine. CeeDee Lamb had one catch for 21 yards, and he's kind of your big play guy. Amari Cooper is kind of your reliable veteran receiver. CeeDee Lamb is kind of your second year big play explosive guy. So I don't know, it just kind of unfolded almost as expected given what you've seen from this team this year. It's not as if the 49ers had just this like amazing explosive in your face game plan. They had 172 yards passing, no passing touchdowns. So Deebo Samuel had a good game. He's a great, multi-purpose Swiss Army knife type of offensive player. But yeah, just overall, the Cowboys had I think 14 penalties or something like that at bad times. And then going back to what you were pointing out, my big thing was, hell, call a timeout before the 2-minute warning. First of all, they had, I'm pretty sure they had 3 timeouts at that point. Call a timeout before the 2-minute warning, get the ball, you could run a good 3 or 4 plays within that 40 seconds that ran off the clock. And yeah, Dak runs for like a 10-yard gain there. I don't recall the last time the NFL awarded points for gaining 10 yards rushing. But yeah, you're right. At that point, time matters more than anything. You've got to score. You've got to get in the end zone no matter what. So it's all about the time, right? And we've seen the Cowboys score some quick points in a short amount of time before. So it's not about yards at that point. It's about time. It's about time management from your head coach and your quarterback that you're paying a mind-blowing amount of money to. So, yeah, I mean, all of that wrapped up in a pretty little bow. It's almost as like, that's almost like what you would expect from this offense and this team that had an all-pro rookie linebacker, an all-pro leading cornerback, leading the league in interceptions. But but at the end of the day, you score 17 points and you can't overcome your opponent scoring 23 at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Jordan here, but before I'm gonna just a couple. You mentioned Debo Samuel, a huge game for him. He's one of the best players I think a lot of people don't know about. Some of that's because he gets injured a lot. If this guy can stay healthy long term, this guy is the real deal. One of the best players in the league. They got a winner there. They just got to keep him healthy. I felt like watching this game, David, like the whole mystique of Zeke Elliott was gone. I'm not saying he's terrible,
sure.
but I just don't think he's that elite back as he once was. Except one problem is he's paid that way, and so I just wonder how this will end there. Maybe not so nice, and I think he's getting into that where his pay is not worth the performance. We know Jerry is loyal to his guys, Eric, quotes, but he's also a businessman too. Tony Pollard has showed, to be honest with you, for a lot less pay, he's capable of stepping in and being probably the starter at least for a year or two until maybe they get that next elite back. But I think the Zeke Elliott we were used to from a few years ago, I don't think that guy exists anymore. You mentioned the line, maybe that's some of the reasons, but so there's some questions I asked you last week. I know there's a lot of Cowboy fans that really don't like Mike McCarthy. Didn't like it when they announced the hire. Kind of the first ones to sort of critique his time management or anything they view as shortcomings. This won't help, his case against folks in that camp. I mean, how do you, before I want Jordan to chime in here, but do you think a game like today kind of hurts? Well, obviously it doesn't help them, but do you think Jerry Jones, who's obviously the opinion that counts the most, do you think Jerry Jones is looking at this like this isn't going to be the guy that gets us over the hump? You think those gears are turning in his mind? We know they are in certain fans' minds.
I think it's moving that direction, but Jerry Jones kind of pulling the trigger on this a couple years ago. He and at least cleaning house in the division, which that doesn't really impress in anybody outside of the NFC East. The Cowboys at least went undefeated in the division and made it to the playoffs, but you've got to be playing your best football when it matters most. That's all that matters. Like, I don't care about anything else, but yeah, I mean, locally among the local media, like yeah, that's for sure a major, story of game time decisions on when you're running a fake punt from your own like 23-yard line and not calling a timeout before your 2-minute warning when you had 3 timeouts in your pocket. It's just, yeah, I mean that it feels like a short leash, but then you've got Jerry Jones who's probably going to live until he's like 122 years old, for some reason. He'll figure it out. So that there's a lot of that type of talk, locally, with Mike McCarthy winning a Super Bowl kind of back in the day, which the game has changed a lot since then. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of that, it feels a lot like, it's all just, um, underachieving is the word of the day. You've got the best offense in the NFL on paper and in reality in total points scored, but you can only manage 17 points when it matters most. So it's, and Garoppolo had fewer than 200 yards passing and no passing touchdowns, and that's not really San Francisco's game, which is fine. And the Dallas defense kind of set up the offense for one of those touchdowns. So, all this talk about game time management in the final, 3 minutes of the game and all that crap, yeah, that highlights the decisions of the head coach for sure, but you shouldn't be there. This game should have been like 31-20, like something around that. So, yeah, we can sit here, all day long and talk about, game management when it, in crunch time and all that type of stuff, but that really shouldn't really matter until you're trying to beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game. So, yeah, it's it's one of those, like, on paper type of, matchups that should have been, could have been, would have been. So it just kind of feels like that. Yeah, the Cowboys can put up 50 points against the Eagles, but what are they going to do against playoff teams?
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. Not a good look. And like you said, Jimmy G didn't light it up. He just played kind of game manager, almost, gave him a chance at the end with a bad pick. And, I just kind of think is next year kind of like Mike McCarthy's got to win a playoff game or then he's out. Like, do you think he gets sort of that ultimatum in this offseason? Like, hey, we had a great year in the
I could
regular
see that
season,
happening.
but we
I could see that happening next year, especially if things regress. I could see it happening, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to like do something with what you have right now, because honestly, like, even like we talked about the Dallas offensive line coming into the season, a lot of people would have said that was a top 2 or 3 offensive line in the entire NFL. Zach Martin is still a Pro Bowler. But it's one of those things like, hey, you got to win with what you have right now. You can't, like, this isn't like the Bengals that have been kind of like adding and building, and were the, was the worst team in the entire league 2 years ago. This is a team like Amari Cooper's not getting younger or healthier. Zeke, his yards per game has steadily decreased every season of his career, like you pointed out. Zeke was the most productive running back in the entire NFL for 3 seasons in a row in terms of yards per game, when he entered the league. But you've got to capitalize on your window. It's, yeah, I mean, you've got to do with what you have right now. You can't go 0-1 in the playoffs. You just can't.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of a short leash. It feels like a short leash for sure for McCarthy. Um, but yeah, I mean, you can't keep doing this.
Yeah, Debo Samuel. Let's be honest. This was a Debo Samuel game more than a Jimmy G game. Without Debo, I don't think San Fran actually wins the game. We're talking about this in a whole different light. I know Jordan liked Debo Samuel today because he told me he won a few sports bets that he placed down on like player bets. But Jordan, just kind of your take on the game as well, like we just were talking about.
Yeah,
Anything?
mainly about that. I think the Cowboys just couldn't really get anything going on offense, and they were really quick drives. I think that was the big thing. Was it wasn't just non-scoring drives; they were quick non-scoring drives. They weren't getting any rhythm, and the
Mhm.
Niners, to their credit, would hold the ball. They really tried controlling and kind of suffocating the clock, and I think they didn't go out with the intent of, I think, really having a big scoring duel with the Cowboys. I think they dominated the clock. They played pretty safe with the ball. Obviously, like you said, Jimmy made kind of a bad throw late, but they just used, I think, the guys they had. They ran Mitchell really hard, and then you use Debo. And I think instead of kind of overextending Jimmy and kind of putting him in positions where he can make mistakes, I think they just said, let's get the ball to our playmakers, kind of keep it away from Dallas, because if you give Dallas enough opportunities, eventually it'll click. They have enough playmakers. And I think what the Niners did was they just kind of kept it simple and really didn't try and do anything crazy. Play good defense, get the ball and hold the ball. And obviously you're trying to score as much as you can, but not go downfield like crazy, not try and overcomplicate things. Really just play through Debo Samuel, play through Mitchell and a little bit of Kittle late, but really just kind of let the guys have talent kind of bring you there. And I think it's really kind of the opposite side of what you didn't have is you have a team in Dallas who is arguably the most talented offense in the NFL, and they just couldn't get those guys out there. Like you said, CD I think had one catch, and that's probably their most explosive player. And I think the opposite side is they weren't taking big shots, but they were just giving those guys opportunities, and they made those plays.
Yeah, I don't look I don't know about you guys. I don't look at San Francisco as like a threat to really sort of make a deep run. They had to go to the last week to even get in with a win over with the Rams. So I don't look at them as a real threat. They got some players. I mean, like I just said, Debo is one of the best players some people haven't ever heard about and underrated. Again, his only big complaint is he just gets hurt a lot. So if he can stay healthy, he's the real deal. So Dallas, they just like you said, we all agree they got playmakers. Whether it's McCarthy's not getting maybe the game plan. Kellen Moore's the offensive coordinator. Some people either think he's doing great or others think he's young and some of that inexperience is showing as an OC. I guess it depends who you talk to, where the blame gets passed. How do they handle the running back deal? Because that's a lot of money that Zeke gets paid. I just watching him today, he's not terrible, but I don't look at him in the same form or fashion I used to, where it was just kind of an elite dominating back that you can kind of hitch your wagons to and he can change the game. I don't think he's that guy
Well,
anymore.
John,
So
John, I actually pulled up Zeke's yards per game average for his career, and it steadily decreased every season. 108.7 in his rookie season led the league, 98.3 led the league, 95.6 led the NFL 3 years in a row, 84.8, 65.3, and 58.9. Now, again,
yeah.
I don't put that all on Zeke, but I do put it all on the Cowboys organization for not being able to actually move the ball on the ground. which that's what kind of Debo Samuel for the 49ers kind of moves the ball on the ground and through the air. But if you're paying these guys, this amount of money to actually churn out yards, wear out defenses, and force defenses to guess. Yeah, I mean that's it. It steadily has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse, almost to the almost to where it's been cut in half.
Yeah.
For Zeke, it's yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, I think some people talk about him like in the same vein, like, and I think some of that maybe he's the Cowboys themselves. I think sometimes you have to admit, like, he's not that guy anymore. Whether it may not even, like you said, it may not 100% be on him. It may be a combination of
Sure.
factors from coaching to the line to, hey, he's 4 years older than that 107 yards per game guy. It's all of those things combined. But I think when you have to realize who you are and who you aren't. And I think sometimes they may still be sort of thinking he's that guy, and maybe the game plan is geared to thinking he's that guy when it really needs to be a different sort of plan of attack. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. How do they I mean, I'm sure he's well liked. I'm sure he works hard and proud. He's not like a malcontent like let's say someone like an Antonio Brown. But at some point, you have to make business. The NFL's a business, right? Sometimes you got to make business decisions, whether that's him renegotiating his contract for a lesser value to stay there, and you kind of do more of a running back committee. Maybe they draft somebody as well. I don't know. But I think, I don't know how they are against the cap, but if you can pay him less and keep him, sure, that probably is the best scenario. But if he doesn't want to take a pay cut, I mean, no one wants to do it. He's pretty. I guess you can call him a fan favorite in Dallas. There's a lot of Zeke posters on Cowboys fans' walls. Let's be honest, but at the same point, you know you could do some. I don't know what his contract officially is, but I think he's getting where I'm going with this. I think he's getting paid more than the production of value is. How do you deal with that? Do you suck it up and try to make it up somewhere else? You try to renegotiate with him to maybe take a pay cut. I don't know if he's the guy that would do that. So there's a lot of stuff there, but then we can get into coaching thing with McCarthy, Kellen Moore, and yada yada yada. But I don't know. This was a game, like I said, when I was doing my picks, this was the game that had the gears in my head turn into most. I picked Dallas. I thought the firepower was going to be enough to pull it out. I didn't think Jimmy G could match the athletic ability of a Dak Prescott. I thought that's what it would kind of come down to. I thought that Dallas defense, led by Micah Parsons, who's terrific, arguably in the running for DPOY. I thought that would be a little bit of a difference too. And like you said, the offense just didn't click today, and that's all it takes is just sort of one not so great week against the right opponent that just scores enough points on you, and you're going home, or in this case, you're staying home. And we'll see what they do. Do they just say, hey, we had a bad game, we don't have to change a lot, we just gotta be more consistent next year, or do they start to press buttons and try to make things happen in the off season? So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if Mike McCarthy gets sort of an ultimatum. Hey, Mike, we got to win a playoff game next year, or I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be, unemployed here, regardless of what happens in the regular season. So, Dallas Cowboys fans are, used to more success or expect more success, especially, they won the division. It wasn't like they snuck in the playoffs like the 49ers did. You know what I mean? They, as you know this as a Cowboy fan, we knew they were going to they were going to be in the postseason. We just didn't know what seed yet and how that was all going to shake out. So it's going to be interesting off season. The Steelers off season looks like it's already underway, as it's 34-7. And we got linemen scoring touchdowns against them. And it was a sort of a nice start, and it looks like the air's coming out of the balloon, and kind of what I expected. I'm sort of the half. Jordan's the glasses half full Steeler guy, and I'm the glasses half
It's not
empty.
even that. It's just you lose a game and you're ready to pack the season up. Like, I know we're not a Super Bowl team, but like you expect a team that hasn't had a losing season in like 20 years to like just tank and lose every game, and it's just not realistic ever.
Well,
Especially
I'm
a
not
team
saying they're going to
this
lose. I'm not
caliber.
saying they're going to lose every game, but
I
when I looked
agree,
at
but
this
if you go
matchup,
back to
and
midseason, you were full ready to like think about looking at a quarterback and maybe losing games. You were talking about winning games hurts your draft position, and you're like, I know we're not a Super Bowl team, but we're in the playoffs, man. It's like wild. You're like, you would trade positions with the Jets just because they have a prettier draft position. Like, no way.
no, I know you just want when you know you're not making a real legitimate Super Bowl run. You know where I'm going with this,
I
man. You want to
agree,
get
Yeah.
the
but
best player.
I
Look,
don't think
look
you're
out that
ready to like
window, and,
build
and
a
and I'll show you
team.
some teams that made the playoffs.
No, I agree. I'm not ready to. I don't think the Steelers are ready to be rebuilt. I think they've never been in a situation to rebuild. It's kind of constantly just finding guys that make you better. I don't. The whole notion that like Pittsburgh's going to change into this tanking team and they're going to start, it just didn't make any
Well, we
sense.
got some holes to fill, man. I think you'll agree
I
to
agree,
that. I
but
mean,
they're
this
9-7 with scoring 37 points in the first quarter on an entire year. I mean,
yeah.
you double that, and you're still probably bottom half of the league, and you win 2 more games. I'm not saying they're a great team, but they snuck into the playoffs with probably one of the worst offensive production like years we've ever seen from a team. So like they're not nearly as like brutal and down as you think they are. I think
Well,
they
we'll
need
see.
more.
I think
I
I
agree
Hey,
they're
think
not
that
right, at,
nothing.
as of right now, the total yardage seesaw is the Chiefs total yards 399 and the Steelers are 43.
Yeah,
yeah,
the thing with
Matt
Pittsburgh is it's
Canada's
been
got
the
to
same
go.
story, but it's been the same story. Is they do this every game, and that's what I agree. If they don't make changes, then yeah, it's pointless. But we've seen Pittsburgh's been able to take years. You go 8-8, 9-7, and turn it
Well,
into
give
12
me
and
this,
4
Jordan. Give me. We got to end on agreeing on something. Matt Canada's got to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. It just I don't know if that'll happen. I don't. There's a lot of
Yeah.
coordinator changes that should happen there. It's just
Yeah.
it's tough when you make slip
Well,
into
that
the
to me,
playoffs.
well, all right. So I'll say this: if they make the right coaching changes, they can be a competitive and a team to deal
Yeah,
with next year. If they don't,
I would never
uh,
argue that they're set where they are. I think you got to
yeah,
adjust and you got to get better. But I don't think they were at the point where you turn around and you start kind of looking at tearing it down and building back up. I think you eliminate a few problems, but I think you more reload than you do rebuild.
yeah. All right, guys. So hour and 14 minutes in. Steeler game looks about like stick a fork in them. Kind
Yeah.
of what I expected. They gave me a little hope to start the game, and then that sort of faded
They got
as
all
we
their
were
points are
talking.
on defense too, so that's
Yeah,
how good of an
yeah,
offensive team
Yeah, what
Pittsburgh
was
is.
that? Watt
On
scored the
D.
touchdown. I saw.
Yep. Fumble
yeah.
Okay.
recovery.
Yeah, so Matt Canada, I apologize to Canada's family. He's probably a nice guy. He's a
Yeah.
terrible offensive coordinator. Maybe he should go back to college where they
Pete
got him
Cutler's the
from.
best Steelers offensive coordinator this game. He's got more points
Yeah,
than the
yeah,
offense.
yeah. And he's got to go too. Listen. We
Yeah.
got to go. Don't get me started on
Yeah.
Keith Butler. I'm just gonna. There's got to be a lot of changes in that
We got
staff. That's all
we
I'm gonna
got
say.
about 21 more minutes of complaints to learn.
Yeah, no, so I'm done. I'm done. But tomorrow we got the Rams and Arizona. We all took the Rams, so we'll all either get a win
Yeah,
or
the
loss on
Cardinals
our
are
picks
happy.
the same. Looks like I hate to say it, I was hoping I lost this pick, but looks like I'm going to win this pick, and you guys are both going. I might win. My only consolation, I might win the playoff pick 'em. Pick.
You're no fan at all.
So, but all right, guys. Again, we'll be back next week. We'll probably shoot for 9. Again, if you watched us live, we appreciate you listening to us. If you're listening to us to audio, we appreciate you the same. We're live on the Sports Card Nation channels, YouTube, Twitter, and you can catch the replay of the video feed on the Six Pack Coverage network on YouTube. That's the Six Pack Coverage network on YouTube. So for David Lee and Jordan Newman, all our teams apparently are done. So next week we can come at it from a pure and plain perspective. But that's how football is. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But it's going to be fun to watch. I think we're going to have matchups where the picks are going to get even tougher, as we get into the later rounds here, as either team can potentially most likely win the game. So for all of us here, we'll see you in a week.